Okay, looks like we are live. Awesome. Gonna let people kind of get connected, get settled in while I do a little intro to our live stream. So I think we're gonna kind of get going. Hello everyone and welcome to our live stream. Today I am joined by Akron Soul Train artist in residence, Eva Polzer. Say hi. To explore their exhibit, Just Girly Things, and we have to add the sparkles on there. So there we go, sparkles for emphasis. This show will be up through Saturday, June 10th. So this is your last week to see the work in person. Our gallery hours are Wednesday through Saturday from 11 to 4, but we will be open late on Friday for the art walk. So after you go to Summit Art Space, make sure you come over to Akron Soul Train and see the show. We'll be open until 9 p.m. on Friday. Let's see. And a quick thank you to our sponsors, the GAR Foundation, the Akron Community Foundation, the Ohio Arts Council, the Leonard Family Foundation, Brennan Family Foundation, Knight Foundation, and the Corbin Foundation. For anyone viewing, thank you so much for joining us. Feel free to ask questions and comment down below. We'll get to them either during or towards the end of the walkthrough. And please let us know how you like this type of programming. And I'm going to switch my camera and we can kind of get started. Okay, here we go. Can you introduce yourself real quick, Eva?
Hi everyone, my name is Eva Polzer. I'm an artist currently living in Kent, hopefully moving on to Akron soon, looking for a cool place. And I'm a resident of Akron Soul Train. I've been so, this opportunity has just been so incredible. On top of just having the platform to have a solo show, my first one after graduating with my BFA from Kent State. I also had the opportunity to have not one but two workshops, so I'm kind of just workshopping my own skills, my own practice, in all these different ways, and again, Akron Soul Train was the way for me to do that. So thanks again to Meryl, to everyone.
We were so happy to have you. So, okay. Can you maybe say a little bit about what this show's about, and then we'll go over each of the pieces?
Yeah. So I've been thinking about it ever since I put the show up, and when it really comes down to it in like the simplest terms, I think I'm really just having a conversation with myself and really anyone who will listen, anyone who understands, just about the complicated reality of navigating the overarching system of patriarchy, especially as someone who has been assigned female at birth, someone who's never really felt like they're doing girl right. So yeah, I'm really just trying to unpack a lot of thoughts and feelings about how I've been navigating my own femininity throughout my whole lifetime. And a lot of these are examples of experiences that I've had in the past, fears, tools to achieve what I want. Yeah.
No, that's great. Okay, where do you want to start?
So I think I actually want to start with this piece here. This piece was actually inspired by my cat that I have at home. His name is Moon Pie, and he is just a terror. But I love him, and he makes me think a lot about the strange, almost kind of abusive relationships we have with our cats, where they are completely in charge and we are at their every whim, and otherwise they'll be pretty frustrated with us. But anyway, it really made me start thinking about the conversation of consent and how, even with animals, for example, a lot of people don't necessarily consider that if you're reaching down to pet a cat, and they are desperately arching their back, like trying to get away from you, that is their version of telling you, no, thank you, I'm not really a fan of touch. And then like I just thought about all the times that I've been in the bar or, you know, just even out in public and have felt like a hand at the small of my back and turned around to a complete stranger, and then I'm the person who gets called some type of mean name when I say, no thank you, sir. You know what I mean? So I really just wanted to transfer that energy into something that was exaggerated and kind of to the point. I think even adding the bed to it adds like the sexual context, which I think is really important, going back to the conversation of consent. And then the next piece I made, I actually went from that piece to this piece, and I was doing a lot of looking at portraits of Venus. So the gesture of the hands, you often see like a subtle like wanting to cover the breasts. Sometimes they're like barely covering, you know, parts of their body in like this really like gentle, sensuous way, almost as if you have caught them and just stumbled upon them. But it really was making me think, like, if someone walked in on me when I was just like chilling nude, I'd be freaked out. Yeah. I definitely wouldn't have that grace and that beauty that has been like documented throughout history. So I've just been making my own Venuses that I feel have an appropriate reaction to someone just stumbling in on a private, intimate moment with themselves and their own body. And then, so this one strayed a bit from the Venus. This I think was I think it was the second to last piece that I had made in this series, but this one was making me think a lot about media and where that idea even came from. We're like peeping on women and girls in the bathroom, and the shower is like this like fun, sexy thing, and it's something that like, you know, like boys like get to just do it, and like boys will be boys, oh whatever, it doesn't actually mean that much, like don't even worry about it. And there's so many movies where there is just a bathtub scene that is completely, it's just not necessary. It just really isn't. We don't need to force these actresses to get, like, to force them to be naked on screen when, you know, they may not get the opportunity if they refuse to be naked, if they refuse to show off their body, if they refuse to participate in a sex scene, even if it interferes with like their own like relationships, their relationship to themselves, their relationship to their own body. So just a lot of consideration when it comes to that. This Venus is my version of Titian's reclining Venus, the reclining nude, very classic. In the original, there is a sleeping puppy on the bed to show domesticity, to show, what is it called? Loyalty, just doing what dogs do. But I decided to shift that element to a hissing cat that's saying, oh hell no, like get out of my space. Obviously it's a lot like a contemporary version of it, and it's really silly. Like when it comes down to it, a lot of these things are, regardless of the fact that I am having a serious conversation with myself, other women, and people who are just willing to listen and talk about these really hard things, you gotta have some humor, especially when you're talking about trauma, because otherwise it just gets way too overwhelming and something needs to break the tension. And I thought, or someone had told me that this looks like something that you'd find in like your weird uncle's basement. And I thought it was so true. Like, I don't know, I was just thinking about.
Yeah, there's definitely that humor element, and it makes it more approachable as well, I think. It's
Cool.
not, it doesn't take itself as like seriously as the serious concepts, maybe.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that point. But yeah, this I think this is the most mixed medium piece that I've ever done in my whole life, other than experimenting in sculpture classes or things along those lines when I was in undergrad. But this was really exciting for me. And oh, speaking of like mixed medium, all of these pieces of doll furniture are either American Girl doll furniture or vintage handmade furniture that I bought from eBay. So ever since I started using the American Girl doll furniture, I've been researching a bit more, and I actually have a lot more research to do because there are a lot more elements to it involving race, class, gender norms that go even further than what I'm exploring. There's even something like, I'm not like a girl's girl kind of girl, like I'm not that girl, like I'm a pick-me girl kind of mentality that falls under American Girl because they were the girls who were educated that had dolls, and like along with the dolls came a story, and along with the story came lessons in history that only girls who had like the financial access of their family did, like to these incredibly expensive dolls, which I didn't even realize that they were that much. Anyway, that is another
That's
series.
a whole nother,
For another time.
It's amazing how much can be unpacked in what was considered like a toy.
Yeah.
And a toy for girls, which has its own just complete,
Yeah, I mean,
like dictionary to unpack almost.
Yeah, that's a huge part of this conversation too that I've been exploring, is really like, as someone who is choosing to be childless, and I don't really ever plan on having kids, and I know a lot of people will say that when they're like younger, and of course things change and anything can happen, you know, but I just remember being young and being really encouraged to play with dolls, and it felt like that was like the cap of it, is like pretend play in a kitchen, pretend play rocking the baby to sleep, pretend play changing a diaper. When I got to see my brother like playing with like ninja toys and like, you know, and like driving trucks like up the wall, like doing backflips and stuff, like there was like this really active, energetic play where he was able to like engage his body, engage space, like engage other kids, where I feel like when it comes to young girls, when their play is designated as this very still, this very quiet, this very nurturing, this very motherly type of activity, regardless of the fact that baby girls have just as much energy as baby boys, and they should be running around and, you know, just having the time of their lives instead of training for motherhood. As you can see, I get a little heated about that. And then I guess we'll move on to another piece. This one I'm still working through exactly what it means to me, and I think the pedestal, whether it's a bed or I'm also considering a scale as the base instead of this bed here, I want it to be, I guess I sculpted it as like this really frustrating conversation that I have with myself. Someone who's constantly policing my own body, policing my own like food intake, just like policing how my body should and can look. I'm often in battle with myself, and I know a lot of that comes from watching America's Next Top Model when I was really young, and seeing women who are my size being called overweight, and it's just like, wow, no wonder eating disorders are just like too, especially with women raised in the 2000s. Not saying that it's not the same now, because it absolutely is. It's probably exaggerating. I need to do more research, but yeah, just the way that women are trained to hate our bodies and be at war with ourselves at a constant is something that takes up a lot of time in my own brain, and I wonder what I'd be doing if I wasn't thinking about that, or what I'd be able to think about if I wasn't so focused on this really trivial thing, because the least interesting thing about me is my body, and I shouldn't be like chained to that, like a fear of how it is perceived at a constant. And then this piece here, so if you look at it from a specific angle over on this side, you can see all the way through. So she's kind of like this airhead, and the title of this piece is Whoop, Sent, Click. So it's essentially like you are walking in on me while I've been taking nudes in my bathroom, and I'm just trying to get some attention and be really like sexual and be very specific about what I'm offering up, because like how many times, if anyone here has been on a dating website, I feel like you get asked for nudes almost immediately, and it's just like
Oh yeah.
like, who am I to you if nothing but a warm body to touch and enjoy for the night? I want to be more than that, because I am more than that. So I want to be like seen and respected in that way. But I think this piece is also me recognizing at the same time that I can embrace my own sexuality. I am allowed to enjoy my nudity. I'm allowed to share it with those that I choose to share it with. And that's just like a beautiful thing that you can share with another human, is like that intimacy, that skin, that exposure. So it is a complicated relationship where there's absolutely a level of judgment that I have for myself, the way that I've given in the past. But then there's also a want to feel liberated in exploring myself and exploring my own sexuality.
I definitely feel that, because sometimes I'm like, if I reacted a certain way at one point in my life and now I've grown and I've learned more, and then it's like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have reacted that way, or maybe I shouldn't have been ashamed of reacting that way.
Oh, totally. Yeah, I mean, when it really comes down to it, all the like quote unquote like bad decisions that we've made, or we made in the past, like that's all we knew. That's we were doing the best with all that we had in that moment, and as long as you just keep an open mind and you're willing to change, I think that really beautiful things can happen.
Yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So yeah, do you have any questions for me?
So yeah, if anyone watching has any questions, please type them in the comments, and I'm gonna ask maybe some questions. So we see the dog and the cat kind of repeated throughout. Can you talk a little bit about maybe your decision to use animals, and specifically like these animals and pets?
Yeah. So when it really comes down to it, I'm using these animals as a vessel to communicate human realities, human concerns, human just like situations that are often like a bit too real, or kind of like harsh or uncomfortable to talk about, like we were mentioning earlier. So in the same way that humor kind of creates a buffer, also does the animal body, because we are animals as humans, but it's a lot different. We as humans, for some reason, tier ourselves higher than other species, and that's another interesting conversation to have. But the dog and the cat, the most stereotypical house pets, the most stereotypical, like, oh, girls have cats and boys have dogs types of conversations. Yeah. So when I was using the dogs within this context, I was using them within a male gaze type of context where, like I was mentioning earlier, scenes in movies, Venus paintings, nudity portrayed at us at a constant throughout history, and even like in contemporary times. Like nothing has really changed. It's just the mediums and like the video quality and like the tools that we're using to create this kind of like propaganda that puts women down and makes them into like reduces them to their bodies. And then when it comes to the cats, I think I felt more permission to exaggerate, to stretch, to shapeshift, because they make me think about someone who is changing, someone who is recognizing something within themselves that they do want to change. Also, I think cats are shapeshifters to begin with. Like 1 second you can be gently loving up on them, they're purring, they're chill, you're just having a moment, and the next second, that one last pet was just too much, and they're overstimulated, and they gotta go, and they're pissed, and those types of experiences aren't actually unfamiliar to myself as someone who is a survivor of sexual assault. Trauma hits at any moment, especially ones that are reminiscent of situations that created the trauma. So I think when I think about like cat behavior, I think a lot about people who have survived really uncomfortable situations. Yeah, because it kind of seemed like the cats were, I don't know if like more personal, but you were thinking of your own body in a way. Totally. I think all of them are self-portraits.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I identify more with the cat than the dog. And I have been thinking about it a lot lately. So I'm still unpacking, but for sure. Yeah. The cat sculptures feel almost more authentic to me in a way, and I think a part of that may have to do with like obviously referencing images from the past in the others, but yeah, I'm definitely more of a cat person.
I do kind of love how you pointed out the historical context of some of them, and how you almost like replace the woman with the dog and the dog with the cat. I think is really interesting.
Yeah, that was a weird, like, strange meta moment. I don't know. And that's actually a sculpture of my cat now. So yeah, I painted it so it looks just like them. Do you have any other questions?
Well, maybe just real quick, so if anyone has any questions, type them in. If you're watching this after the live stream, feel free to comment on them and we'll get to them. Maybe like a little bit about because I feel like humanity has a tendency to put morality or ethics onto animals that don't have that. Yeah. And so we're like, oh, the cat shouldn't do that because it's bad, or the dog shouldn't do that. And it's like, they don't have that same sense of, or like we have created a morality that's not necessarily real, or I don't,
Yeah, that's a really interesting conversation to have, because I actually do a lot of research on animal behavior, and I'm undeniably fascinated, but we are learning more and more every single day that specific animals do have culture. They do have communication that is like much higher and much more sophisticated than human-centric like understandings. I mean, for the longest time, for some reason, there's a rumor that like fish can't feel pain. Like there are all of these like rumors about the animal experience, but when you actually observe and like break down and understand their umwelts, which are actually that's the word to describe like the windows like to reality. So for instance, humans, we really rely on like our internal world to like help us regulate and help us navigate by using our external senses that are sight, smell, touch, the big five, the big however many we have. But I think some animals may not necessarily have like a moral compass that is like equal to what humans have, but I think they definitely have like power structures, or more, maybe even less of like power structures within their communities. They have more of like an even playing ground and like a respect for one another that I feel like some human beings don't. So But then again, there are lots of examples where that also doesn't exist.
It's super fascinating to even talk about and learn about and think about all that stuff.
Yeah, I'll probably just talk in circles about it. I'm not even answering your question.
No, it doesn't need to necessarily be answered. I just think it's an interesting discussion. So yeah. Okay, well I'm gonna do kind of one more quick run through of this show. It's in this really nice intimate space, and I know you kind of talked about that kind of peeping in or interrupting of private moments, and we have this show in the Capsule Gallery, which is a much more enclosed space that kind of seems like you are interrupting all of these little scenarios that are happening. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and wrap it up. I'm gonna switch my camera back. Okay, I'm gonna have Eva in the background. Thank you, Eva, for giving us a tour of your show. And thank you everyone for tuning in. Remember, this is the last week to see the show in person. We're open Wednesday through Saturday from 11 to 4 with the extended hours through 9 p.m. on Friday for Art Walk. So head over to Summit Art Space for all the festivities there and come by to Akron Soul Train to see us. Also on view is Catherine Moore's exhibit, The Space Between Landing and Falling, which features photos, video, and journaling of the artist's first 100 days after finishing chemo. It's a really powerful exhibition and something that you won't want to miss. So we'll see you in the next live stream and hopefully in the gallery. Bye.
Bye-bye.